always have like internal music playing in my head. This should be a very fun and interesting topic to discuss here about romantic relationships. Now, I've been thinking, I did make a post today on my Facebook page. I said, guys be like, and this is true, this is real life, guys be like, why are you single? That question to me is so absurd. Like, they ask it as though, like, is something wrong with being single? Something terribly wrong, right? Or as if, like, being in a relationship or being married is just like the pinnacle fucking gold standard of success. Right? So I do get annoyed sometimes by that. Like, why are you single? Right? But I'm going to post. And I said, guys, like, why are you single? And my response is that it's the peace for me. It really is a peace show. I don't think people understand. Like, there's a degree of fucking peacefulness that you find in just being by yourself. Some people don't get it. I'm going to unpack that here in this video. And how it works for me. I think a lot of people are really, like, petrified with being alone. They're petrified in going places by themselves, going to the movies. They need someone to go with them. Everybody is not made the same. See, look, I already got somebody agreeing with me. Kareem says, best thing is to remain a free bird. Let me put this down to the side. To remain a free bird. Yes. Soaring high in the sky. Yeah, some people need, like, a partner to go out with, right? They need to always have to be around someone. And they become petrified. They become afraid when they are alone and they get to hear their own thoughts and feel, right, when there's no one else around them. They become afraid, and for me, I find solace in that. I find solace in being alone. And this is not something new that just popped up out of nowhere in my life. This is me going back as far as I can remember when I was a little girl. I've always been this way. I've always been, like, by myself and happy by myself. Even in a family with a big family, a lot of people, you know, siblings and adults in the house, I'm the one in my room with my door closed, with my head in a book. Okay? It's no surprise that I created a literary organization called Ubawa. Hello, Ali. Hello to everyone who is watching. Feel free to chime in. So, I have to, like, lay the foundation, the groundwork, because a lot of people somehow get it misinterpreted. I was having a conversation, and I do have a profile on a dating app because I kind of do like meeting people. Although I like being alone, I understand the importance of social interaction, right? As a mental health professional, I get it. Just as a person who wants to maintain a sense and degree of normalcy in society, I understand the importance of social interaction. But my natural inclination, my natural proclivity is just being by myself. And this is not something that I just discovered. I'm just sharing it with you guys because I feel like not only me, but a lot of people like myself, women and men included, go misunderstood. Being around one person is new to human anthropology. Only some 10,000 years ago, when agriculture was discovered and humans settled down. So I was having this conversation with someone on a dating app, and like, yeah, he asked me the fucking annoying ass question of why are you single? And y'all know me with being the analytical person I am. I had to go into his mind to see, okay, what's driving your question? Like, what makes you ask me that? He was like, oh, no reason, nothing. I hate that. Like, you need to know why you're saying something, right? I'm a person, I speak with intentionality. I can tell you why I said something, why I asked something. I can give you an exact reason why. But he struggled. And I don't think that he didn't know. I think he knew. Sometimes people just ask things just kind of like reflexively, just asking questions, right? And then I said, well, after he told me, oh, well, I don't know. No reason in particular. I just asked, why are you single? And I'm like, well, I don't like to engage. I like to converse with people who don't understand their intentions. You don't even understand your own intentions. So I can't converse with you. I said I would rather converse with someone who understands his intentions. So I'm not motivated to answer your question as to why I'm single. Not that I would anyway, right? And so then he circles back and he's like, well, you know what? I don't want to engage in this like back and forth. How did he say it? I don't want to, how did he put it? I don't want to engage in like this, basically he wanted to like engage in a conversation that is meaningful, right? To build connection. He didn't want to, and this just happened today. He didn't want to like, the resistance, that's the word he used. I don't want to like go back and forth and create this resistance here with you. So I'll go ahead and I'll just tell you why. I'm like, why couldn't you just say it when I first asked you, right? I had to like threaten shutting down the conversation in so many words just for you to come forward and just tell me like what is your, because I wanted to know how does he see singlehood. That's how I asked him that alongside wanting to understand his intentions for asking me why am I single. I wanted to see, okay, how do you view singlehood, right? And so then he goes, well, I asked that because it's hard for me to wrap my mind around like a woman like you who seems like to be the perfect person to build with based on, I guess, my pictures on the profile and like, things I have in the profile that reveal, where I'm at in my life, professionally, financially and all that. He's like, I don't understand why a guy would not see the value in that, right? And I had to like, hold on. I had to uncover like, what is he really saying, right? Because I felt like he was projecting. And his interpretation of why I'm single says a lot more about him than it does about me, right? So for him to assume that I'm single because guys don't see my value, so therefore they don't desire me. I'm like, that is not the reason why, because a lot of men see my value. A lot of men are attracted to me. A lot of men desire to be with me. And this is what people just don't, I just think people just don't get singlehood. They don't get it. They just think that women are single because, oh, a man hasn't chosen to be with them. They're on a dating site because, oh, they have bad luck with being chosen by men. I'm like, maybe that's why men are on dating sites, perhaps. I don't know. But I'm like, a dating site is just a platform to get to meet people. We're all here for the same reason, to get to meet. Like, don't put too much stock into it to assume that, oh, a person is there because they have a slight chance at meeting someone. I meet people all the time, men. I mean, I don't mean to toot my own horn, but, yo, men come a dime a dozen. I think it just boils down to who a person is on the inside, who I am, and what kind of man I want. Or if I even want a relationship to begin with in the first place, right? It's funny because it's like, I was just having a conversation with a friend on we were texting last night. And he asked me, like, what is the end goal of dating? Because he saw my recent video. And I watch his YouTube videos too. He watched mine. And so he was led to ask me, what's the end goal of dating after watching my video, or while watching my video on the psychology of dating. And I do want to read your comments, but maybe I'll come back to it after I get my point across. And I'm like, okay, I guess the philosophical, practical reason, not even philosophical, but I guess it could be philosophical, but more practical reason for me wanting to date is, I guess, companionship. Companionship, intimacy, and procreation. I have a womb. I'm a woman, right? So I guess I do want kids. I guess right now I'm thinking I want kids, right? Who knows? You don't know if you want kids, I guess, until you have them. Then you're like, damn, why the fuck did I give up? Why did I give up not having kids? Just imagine, because once you have kids, it's like, okay, you have kids now. I'm a mother. You can't reverse the shit, right? And I'm enjoying, like, the space I'm in a lot. And so I'm going to read y'all comments. And then I'm going to go and lay more foundation. Because it's helpful, I think, for people watching, you guys watching, just people in the world, especially when it comes to understanding, like, women, men, relationships, and singlehood. Like, sometimes people don't quite get it. Do you prefer a rural area like forest and rich environment? Look after cattle and camels like my society. Where are you from, Ali? I think, yeah. I would say I'm a city girl because I was born in the city. I was born in Jacksonville. It's kind of like a city, right? Up and coming city, but it's not a city. It's funny when I tell people in New York that I live in New York now, and I tell people where I'm from, and then they're like, "Oh, you're from Jacksonville, but you decided to move to a real city." Yeah. But yeah, farm life sounds pretty cool. I imagine that myself doing that. The best couple for me is one wherein each party is single somehow. Right, standing on your own 2 feet in your own individuality. Would you like to live forest and mountain and bank of river to build and poor hut to eat the fish and drink river water and hunting deer, eating fresh fish, drink camel milk? Somalia. I know that sounds like a very stress-free life. You think about it. A lot of people want to come to America. I was watching this very triggering YouTube video of a black woman who also lives in New York, was talking about the whole the Haiti situation, right? With the Haitian refugees. I don't even know why I watched that shit. I used to be good friends with her. And kind of looked up to her. But then people, for the sake of wanting to get views, wanting to make money, right? They sacrifice their morals and values. And I see that her direction of her channel has changed drastically. And so she's promoting a certain agenda that's not really beneficial to the black community at large. But anyway, I watched her video that she made on the situation with Haiti with the Haitian refugees, and it's just negative, yo. And you know, it was a lot said in that video where she was talking about how they were, you know, fleeing obviously a very harsh reality to escape that, to come to a perceivably better reality. People think that America is just so great. But America is a very stressful place to live. So, oh yeah, you live in New York. I lived on Myrtle Avenue. Yeah, I live in Upper East Side in Manhattan. Just kind of stumbled across this area. Sammy says, the two greatest fears we humans have in relationships are fears of engulfment, smothering, being controlled by someone else, and fears of rejection and abandonment. And to spice up the human drama, I hate how they do the comment show. To spice up. Human drama, our greatest longings are the needs for connection and the opposite need for... Wait. I'm trying to read the comment, but when I like scroll, it just like goes to a totally different place. I'm like, wait, okay. Need for space and individuality. This is the great cosmic joke what they set up for problems, and so the couple dance is set playing out. Yeah. Wait, is playing out these great universal themes. People with narcissistic traits have more of this quality than other people. They play both these fears out in the relationship with their significant others, yearning for closeness and fearing it at the same time. He said, as an immigrant from Morocco, witnessed 9/11. Yeah, so what a lot of people don't quite understand is that, okay, number one, I'll be 38 in 6 days, right? I'm very proud of my age and where I'm at in my life. I am. People sometimes see you where you are, but they don't really know like your story, your history, right? A lot of people don't know that over half of my adult life meaning from 18 up until now, I have been in 3 serious relationships where I cohabitated with my partners, these men. And they were cool men. They were, you know, it was what it was. Like, obviously it was something that attracted me to them and vice versa, and to the point where we like cohabitated together. But we're talking about 10 years of my adult life. That's half of my adult life, right? From 18 to 38. That's 10 years is half of my adult life. I've cohabitated with a man. So when people assume like, oh, why are you single? It's just like, damn, can a woman be single for a period of her life? Granted, my last serious relationship ended December 2017, which seems like yesterday. It feels like yesterday. But it'll be 4 years this December. And that shit was intense. And, you know, I love these men deeply. I still have access to them. Like, you know, the breakup, it was very mature and responsible and respectful, and it was a mutual thing. And, you know, but it's just like, I look at myself even in those relationships. And I know it's just me. Like, everyone is different. And I keep saying, like, okay, I have this personality type. I knew that I had an awkward personality type before I took the whole Myers-Briggs type indicator that my friend wanted me to take. But even, like, after taking it, like, it's kind of confirmation, right? I was kind of hesitant at first because I'm just like, you know, I don't need anyone telling me about who I am, what kind of personality I have. I know what kind of personality I have, but according to my result, and I took the test 2 different times and got the same exact type, which is the INTJ personality type, and it says very rare. It's only found in like 2.5% of the population and only like 0.8% of women. That's not even like 1%. That's like less than 1% of women have the personality type. I knew this, like growing up, I was that kid, like kind of weird or whatever, but I don't consider myself as weird. I'm just like me. And so, even in relationships, like, even in relationships, that's how I know, like, when I am in a relationship with a guy, I know, like, when I do feel like for a guy, I know, like, okay, this is it. Because when I say it, not to say it's going to last forever. I don't think nothing lasts forever. But I feel like, okay, we have, like, a genuine connection to each other. Because I know I'm a very unique type of person, right? And so it takes another unique type of person to, like, mesh well with me and the way I think and the way I interact. And I'm just looking back at my relationships. I'm just like, I know it was kind of awkward, just awkwardness. I don't really talk too much about my, like, relationships like that. But just, like, yeah. If you could have a conversation with any of my 3 exes that I cohabitated with for that 10-year span, they would tell you. Like, I'm a very dynamic person, right? I will bring out the best of you, and they brought out the best of me. I feel like that shit was reciprocal anyway. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, sometimes just being alone, like, even, okay, when I was in those relationships, like, yeah, I think you said something that somewhat resonated with me about, like, closeness, and fearing closeness. I don't really fear, like, the guy was my friend who I was talking with on the phone. We were chatting or texting or whatever, and he mentioned, like, oh, like, do you fear, is it because you fear, like, failure in terms of moving forward in a relationship? I'm like, I don't fear anything. There's nothing to fear. I'm not concerned about that. He mentioned, oh, you gotta, like, as if I gotta hurry up, so that I don't age out the market. Like, oh, the biological clock kind of thing ticking. Like, I don't. That to me sounds awkward hearing someone say that, because that's not how my mind works. And I think very deeply. And when I say deeply, I think about a lot of different things, right? But that's not something that is currently, like, a worry. I don't really worry about things. That's another thing. That's not something. I just live, like, in the moment. And I look at things like the universe will bring things together. Some people have an issue with understanding what does that mean, like the universe, right? And I try to explain it to him. And then he's like, oh, but then he's trying to point out, trying to make it make sense, right? So he was like, oh, well, he says he find it hard to believe that I would put, like, my, I guess, love life in the hands of the universe. Whereas, when it came to, like, me pursuing a PhD, it seems like I move with intentionality and put a lot of, effort into achieving that. But you can't be mistaken, though, because, yes, there's a lot of effort and attention and blood, sweat, and tears to fucking achieve a PhD. But at the same time, even my advisors in the program, my dissertation chair, who got to know me very well, we worked one-on-one together for my entire time in the program, because she was my advisor during my freshman year, and then she became my dissertation chair. Like, and then more recently, after I graduated, she invited me to speak on a panel, which I did. That was at like a week or so ago, talking about, my experience in applying for pre-doc and what my pre-doc internship was like. And I had to say to my fellow colleagues on the in the room, who were about to apply for their pre-doc internship, because I know when I was going through that phase, people are very like anxious and worried and in a fluster. I just don't deal with life like that. I just don't. So I'm expressing that to them. Meanwhile, like the other people on the panel who are like, doctors, like we're all in kind of same position. We're on the panel talking about our experience and trying to give some kind of word of advice to those who are in the shoes that we were in, right? What, a couple years ago. And other people are kind of giving like, I guess, practical advice on like how to structure their essay and, what to include in your essays. We have to write like 4 essays as part of our application. It's a whole like national match process that you go through where you're competing against other doctoral psychology students across the nation. It's just like this big to-do thing, right? Medical students kind of go through the same thing in getting matched for their residency. And so my advice was like, listen, this is my approach. I did what I needed to do. And the ironic thing is they encourage us. They actually make it policy that we're supposed to apply to like 12 to 15 different clinical sites across the nation. And I only applied to 5. I don't follow the rules, right? They were upset. My school was just like, listen, we are an APA accredited program and, numbers matter, statistics, They're afraid that I'm going to make them look bad and not get matched during first rounds or get matched at all. Like, listen, how about your girl came through and got matched first rounds? Because they're like different rounds. If you don't get matched the first round, you got to apply during the second round. I got matched the first round. Not only that, I got my fucking top choice, okay? Here in New York City. How though? I feel like I put things in the hands of the universe. So when my friend was texting me and was like, oh, he find it ironic that I'm putting love in the hands of the universe, but it don't seem like I put my career development in the hands of the universe. I'm like, I kind of did though. Like, that's how I approach life. I do what I can, but it should be kind of apparent, like, or maybe it's not apparent. The way I move, like I'm just kind of free flowing. You should be able to see that in my presentation. But I can be very like logic and strategic and rational and like very meticulous and conscientious at the same time too. So I guess, I don't know, it could be confusing. People like, how can I can't really put my finger on it or on her. It's just like, listen, we're just dynamic creatures. That's how I look at it. We are all dynamic creatures. We all have special traits. As it relates to like dating, I'm just like, yeah, everything is in the hands of the universe. I'm not worried about any of that. But for him to project that onto me, apparently that may be something that has crossed his purview. You know what I'm saying? Like that has, maybe he struggled with in his mind, I don't like when people project like their own insecurities onto me. And that could be a good reason why people like myself just like to be alone. Oftentimes people just come with like weird ways of thinking, right? That I can understand it, right? Because obviously I'm drawn to the profession of psychology for a reason. I like to work with people. I like to study people. But in terms of like relating to people, it's different in that way, right? It's one thing to empathize, to understand, and put yourself in someone's shoes. I can do that, right? But it's just like in terms of like relating to people in like romantic relationships and just even on a friendship level, it's just, I don't know. Sometimes people, I just be like weirded out, I relate better to dogs probably than to people. Are we monogamous or polygamous by nature? Now that's another debate when it comes to men. I was watching a live today also where he always kind of makes this argument to say that men are naturally polygamous because men when you guys ejaculate, you release like millions of sperm. Whereas women are only fertile during the ovulation period of her cycle, which is only what, 4 to 5 days out the month, if that, where she releases only one egg. And so from a biological perspective, people make the argument that men are made to be polygamous because you got to do something with their sperm, right? Men can impregnate infinite number of women at a time, whereas a woman can only give birth to a child once a year, maybe twice. But that's like really back to back. It's really cutting close. Unless, of course, you have like multiple births at the same time. But listen, I'm not opposed to polygamy at all. It seems like that's what men's nature is anyway. So it's just like, why not just be forthcoming with it and put everything on the table? I think men feel propelled to like force themselves into this monogamy, right? This idea of monogamy, when that's not really who they are naturally. And so that's where the problems come. In relationships, women have the expectation of men to only be with them. And if a man is looking at other women, then a woman feels insecure. I think that is funny though. That's another thing. Like for me, I'm a different kind of woman in that respect. Like I'm awkward in that respect because like even in my past relationships, and I know I said that I cohabitated with a man, right? Well, those three partners for the 10-year span. Even outside of that, because there are the other 10 years, right, of my adulthood, I was still dating. But the way attachment for me is different to a man. I think some women, or a lot of women probably for that matter, their sense of self-worth is like really contingent upon a man. I don't want to get this misconstrued, but it's just like a lot of women, I've seen this, even my own sisters and blood and, non-blood sisters. I've seen it play out. Women be going crazy over a man. And I never could understand, like, why. I never, like, had that experience where I, like, go crazy necessarily over a man. Right? Because my mind works differently. The way my mind processes things is just completely different. Especially when it comes to emotions and attachment. Like, women be going fucking crazy when it comes to, like, a breakup and, they lash out. They have difficulty controlling their emotion. They don't see, like, oh, their life is going to end or something, or they want to take to like aggressing towards a man or his like fucking belongings because they like interpret his actions as a threat to who they are, right? As if like they feel inadequate. That's why I get confused when men ask me like, why am I single? And then they somehow in their twisted mind, make the assumption that I'm single because men don't see my worth and they don't see my worth, therefore they don't desire me. I'm just like, what? I don't know. It's very confusing to me. I'm just like, what? When there are like eons of men wanting to be with me, right? But that doesn't do anything for my like confidence or self-esteem because I know who I am independent of that. And even if I'm in a relationship with a guy, which I have experienced with men though, this is the thing. I just think that for the past 4 years, I don't really post like relationships. I may post like, okay, if I'm dating a guy, I may post a picture or something. We go out on a date. But if I'm involved with the guy, like deeply involved, that's not something I post it like on social media. Even like my last relationship, I mean, there are videos of us that you'll be able to find, but you won't be able to find much about like me and him like that. And so yeah, it's just for me, it's just weird. And men get upset. I've had like men usually are more attached. Like they're more like emotionally attached and emotionally involved in a relationship. Right? That's how it usually works with me. And then I'm involved. Like I love them and all that. But I guess maybe I'm just more rational. I'm very rational. I can get emotional though. Like, yo, I have my side too. Um, but I'm very much in control of my emotions. And I've seen where like, even in my last relationship, when men get their feelings hurt, they go, like, it's intense, right? Um, and I'm just be like, why? Just, go on. It's okay to go on, but when men get their feelings hurt, their feelings be hurt. And for me, I don't see life like that. I think it's a good thing though, and I've always been this way. It's not that, oh, I became an adult and had certain experiences that made me this way. It's just like I've always kind of been protective of my emotions in a sense where I don't know. I don't get bothered. I don't. It doesn't bother me, right? I can be with a guy, dating a guy, and he says, "Oh well, I want to go out and do this," or which he that is. That's not really the case. I'm trying to think of an example how I would even be hurt by a guy, because I don't know. I don't look at it like the way my mind works and processes the information. I don't look at it like it's something that I need to feel hurt about. Right? I look at it like, okay, this is probably what we need. I feel like everything happens for a reason, so this is probably what we need. And even if it comes to the point where I'm seeing a change, right, in my partner's behavior, not that a man has cheated on me or anything like that, but I'm seeing a shift in our dynamics. It's just like I go with the flow. And it's probably at that point where I'm like, I'm tired of the fucking relationship too anyway. So, that's probably, it's part of my personality. I admit, I believe I do have some narcissistic traits. And so, I'm not bothered by shit like that. I just be like, alright. Well, I'm supposed to cry. Men be fucking bent out of shape if a woman like is not like all on the floor crying over them. I never was that woman. I would never chase a man ever. Like, I can easily cut communication with a man and I'm not affected by it like that, and but men be like they be in their feelings, but I just be like and it's not just like intimate or romantic relationships that I do this with. It's just like anything. It's everything in life. Separation from, people, things, organization. Yeah, it's just, I don't know. You can't look at things like that. It's hard to put into words, I guess, because it comes off, I think, the reason why I'm struggling with articulating myself in this moment, because I think I'm thinking about what I'm going to say, right? In a way, I'm trying to frame it in a way that people can relate to, while I'm also thinking about how people are receiving the information I'm sharing and how it can get easily misinterpreted. Some folk will see you that way because the majority of people in the world want to be paired up. Yeah. I guess that seems like it would be like the natural thing to do. But I think a lot of people though are on my side with this. A lot of people are okay with being single. Now, it's not to say I don't want kids. I do want kids. I imagine myself like, I don't know, being, I guess, in a relationship. But I've been in relationships though. And when I say like romantic relationships are overrated, I'm saying this because I've been in them. And yeah, I felt like the giddy feeling inside. It's not that, oh, I had bad relationships. No, they were great men. Don't get me mistaken. They were good men. They took care of me. They were the breadwinners. They paid the bills. They bought me things for my birthday, special holidays, and I didn't fucking return the fucking favor. I'm a terrible girlfriend. I don't believe in giving gifts. They got me gifts. They surprised me with gifts. They were just sweet men, I dated alpha men, dominant men, fucking beta male. It's just personality. I had a clinical supervisor back in LA who assumed that I was not empathic. I'm like, hold on. I think people need to be careful with words to not say, oh, you don't have empathy, right? That's like talking on an extreme. To say, some people do this all the time. People like speak in extremities to say, oh, you never do this, or you don't have empathy. That's not true. No one is one extreme or the other. I just think that I have empathy for certain things and other things I just don't. And I am very much in control. Can we like do a positive reframe of my kind of personality type? Because a lot of times people kind of lump people into like one or two categories. You're either extrovert or you're introvert. You're either social butterfly or you're antisocial. I don't like that. Those extremes. And then they're like negative fucking things, right? If you're not like the socially accepted construct, then you are looked at as just some fucking misfit or something like that. No. Life is not about what you're getting, it's about what you're giving. I give a lot though. It's about love language. So I'm glad you mentioned that because I'm glad you're like expressing what's going through your mind as I'm saying what I'm saying. Because what you're saying is not just your thoughts, it's what other people probably will be thinking also, especially when I upload this video to YouTube. So I'm grateful for you saying that. To my defense, I would like to say like people we have different love languages. Some people give gifts. For me, it's time. That's my love language. Time is like the most priceless gift you can give. I will give you my undivided time and attention. But if that's not your love language, and by love language, there was, I think, a marriage therapist, I forget, who came up with this. But there are different types of love languages, like time, quality time, shall I say, touch, gift giving, acts of service. And for me, it's definitely quality time. If I had to pick one, right? That's how I express my love. And that's how I give. But that can also come off as a bit awkward too. Because I don't give gifts. I just don't. And then my ex, he mentioned that. He was just like, he was having like one of his little hissy fits. And this was like towards the end of our relationship, where he was just getting it all out. He was like, you ain't never gave me no birthday gift. And I had to think, I'm like, damn, I ain't never gave his ass no fucking... But no, I did give him a card, though. I gave him a card that I picked out. He gave it back to me at the end of our relationship. I think I still have it. So that's another thing. Like, I keep things that people give to me. So I value gifts. I just really don't give them. I don't know. It's just weird giving gifts. But I do give affection. I was very affectionate to him. We had lots of sex. I gave him hugs spontaneously. I gave him so much attention. Like, I made him feel like he was God. Like, I gave him my attention, my commitment. You know, I don't cheat when I'm in a relationship. I don't cheat. Yeah. But I think he liked it. Some guys may not like that amount of attention. Like, when I'm with a guy, I can be clingy in a sense. I won't say clingy, but how you guys understand clingy. Like, clingy in a sense, like, I will be up under you. Be up under you, like, I'm all, like, looking at his face, admiring him. And it's just, like, even if we're, like, 2-3 years in, 4 years in a relationship, I look at you like it's my first time seeing your face. You know what I'm saying? That's how I am. If I like you like that. Because I'm looking at the beauty within you. I'm connecting with, like, your spirit. And that's how I show, that's how I give. You know what I'm saying? I'm giving him attention. Rubbing his face. Kisses. You know, just massaging him. Lots of sex. Cooking. Like, doing the basic shit that women do. Cleaning. Just caring for a man. Just being there. You know what I'm saying? Like, being his peace, so to speak. Bro, that's how I am. That's how I show up in relationships. But it's like, if it's come to an end, because there are moments where it can get intense. I don't really talk about the intense part. Like, I don't talk about the intense parts. I think I have though. No, I never put that shit on here. Listen, every woman, we all have our fucking, what do y'all call us? What's the fucking clinical term they gave women back in the day? Hysteric or whatever. Hysteria. Every woman has that shit. You know, where it appears as though, like, we lost it, but we kind of in our emotions and stuff like that, or whatever, and we become very irrational in our behavior. So yeah, I've had those moments, but in terms of, like, the topic of this video, it's like, for me, you know, I've gotten so comfortable being single over these past, like, 4 years since my last relationship, and even, like, intermittently between relationships, when I was single, I was good. Like, just not even thinking about, love, or I wasn't thinking about that. What was I thinking about? Thinking about school, my career, traveling, kids. But I have to say this, though. I remember, like, when I was when I was younger, I was a little girl. Like, I used to be saying weird shit. But I'd be like, when I get older, me and my husband, we're not going to live together. We're going to live in 2 separate homes. I used to say that shit often, a lot. And I remember, like, in my senior book, you know how they have, like, a section where you can talk about, like, oh, your future husband, like, list characteristics, or how many kids you want, your future car is going to be, you fill in the blank in your, like, senior book. And for me, I put, where it says kids, I put 0. I prophesied that over myself. So, you say people who score high on the narcissistic scale are poor gift givers. That's the thing. When it comes to narcissism, being able to measure it, I think it can be difficult. If it's self-report, right? Self-report measures can be tricky, right? Because there's a lot of faking good with self-report measures, especially when the face validity is high, where the person taking the measure, right, completing the measure, you know what they're getting at. So of course you're gonna, like, answer in favor of making yourself appear to be a certain type of way. But if, you know, there are measures that have, let's say, narcissism kind of built into the measure where you don't know that's what they're measuring, that's another thing. I'm thinking of the MMPI, the Minnesota Multiphasic Personality Inventory. It's been a minute since I've administered that. Last time I administered the MMPI was when I was working at a prison in California. I don't remember it having a subscale of narcissism on there. I can measure, like, anxiety, depression, psychopathic, deviance, but not narcissism. So I don't know how I would rate on that. We also had to take the MMPI as psychologists in training. And my shit was all over the fucking place. I was like, whoa. You say empaths are excellent gift givers. I'm an empath. I know I'm an empath because, like I said, I think it depends on, like, what are we talking about being empathic towards. Now, what kind of also prompted me to go ahead and just do this video. I was going to do it anyway. Excuse me. But what really prompted it was I had just come off this woman's live that I follow. She has a 2-year-old daughter. And she's now pregnant. And she was, like, in tears. And it made me sad seeing her in tears. Because she's going through a lot. And it made me just think, like, a lot of pain and suffering that women go through. Men are the fucking culprit. It's kind of unfortunate, right? Not that I have endured pain and suffering necessarily from men. I can't really say that. Because I don't process it. I process my shit differently in a way. But me witnessing it, like, from, like, sisters, blood sisters and non-blood sisters. Just other women. It's just like, fuck that shit. I always say it couldn't be me, knock on wood, but it's just like, I always imagine, like, damn, I would never want to be that woman who is, like, a baby mama. I've always been very careful when it comes to like lying, who I lie down with and lying with the guy. And I think the universe has also protected me very well, so that I do not have any children, which I could have had, but I don't, because I just think I've been protected by the universe. Because those guys, hell fuck nah. Like, I want to raise a child with the father, right? I was raised, and that's also, I forgot to even mention that, but most of you guys already know, I was raised in a 2-parent household. My dad raised me. You know what I'm saying? My dad was heavily involved in my life. My dad bought me my second car in full. I bought myself my first car, but he bought my second one in full, paid for that shit in full. My dad, like, I'm a daddy's girl, you know, so I wouldn't say I have daddy issues, though. I like to play the daddy baby girl role because it's just an extension of my relationship that I had with my dad. And I got into a debate with my psychoanalytic professor who taught psychoanalysis, right, when I was back in LA. Because, of course, what do psychoanalysts believe? That, you know, everything kind of stems from the early childhood years, right? Who you are and how you manifest yourself as an adult and in relationships. And they look at things in terms of deficit. So let's say if you have something that plays out in your relationships as an adult, they look at it like, oh, there must be a link to your childhood. And that link is like a deficit, an area that you're lacking. And I got into a debate. I got pulled into an enactment in kind of way. But no, I got pulled into a debate with my psychoanalytic professor who was teaching this theory, right? Now, granted, I do believe in that theory, but the debate basically was for me to paint a different perspective, to add to that theory, to say that I believe in that theory, but I also believe that it could just be the fact that a person had a normal developing childhood and they just crave more of that as an adult, right? They just want to extend that as an adult, not that they lack that, and that's the reason why they have this desire to manifest this as an adult. And I'm thinking about myself and my relationship with my dad, you know, and how I do like to play out, you know, being a baby girl. And I imagine myself like how me and my dad was. Not that we had fucking sex, but we were very close. I was always up under my dad. He was out cutting the grass, riding his lawnmower. And I would be like right there. He had and my dad's still alive, by the way. He just turned 80. Yeah, like he would like work out in like his workhouse, the house behind our house we live in. And I would be like right there with him. I always was like right there. Like I have fucking videos. My dad was like the videographer in our family, and he made a bunch of like homemade videos, and I had them with me. I actually finished transcribing them, or I transferred them from VHS to DVD. Because I do want to make a documentary, but I'm looking at the videos recently since I've been here in this place here in New York, and I'm just like, dang, I've always been on my dad. In the videos, you can see it, like, damn, she right up under her dad. My mom would be there, but who was I by? I was like up under my dad, though. So we just had a different kind of bond, and it kind of desire that, like, as an adult woman, that same kind of daddy girl relationship with men. And it's just like, if I could find that, like a man that would treat me like how my dad treated me, right, and still do treat me. I just went to visit my dad in Florida back in August for his birthday, and just like nothing has changed, you know. I'm his little baby girl. So yeah, I mean, my ex, you kind of was like that. he got it. He got it, right? So it was easy for him to fall into that role, but I think at the same time, um, part of his personality was a bit more domineering than my father, so it kind of went left in a way. Um, but yeah, a lot of men look at that. Some men like, oh, I don't want a woman that got daddy issues. That's not daddy issues. That's just a woman wanting to be like nurtured, you know what I'm saying, and cared for as if a father would care for, you know what I'm saying, his daughter. It's just, I don't see anything like unhealthy about that kind of relationship, right? Or maladaptive, you know, or dysfunctional. Some people look at something is wrong. There's nothing wrong with that. And I think that's just what I think I'm craving, right? And so because I haven't really had that, right? Or I found a guy that can relate to me in that way, I'm not attracted to like, and I come across all kinds of men, yo. So it's not that I don't attract men who desire me. Of course, I have. I have, but I don't find that connection. Just like, I don't see my dad in this man. That's basically what it is. I don't see my dad in you. If I see my dad in you, I'm like, all right. I fall in love. Yeah, by the way, my dad spoiled the shit out of my ass. A lot of men probably, I don't know. I won't say a lot of men. Some men do spoil women. But in terms of that, like, type of dynamic, daddy, baby girl kind of dynamic, a lot of men, nah. I don't think men have the patience. They're just like, you know what? Nah. I get it though. I can put myself in a man's shoes, and I definitely understand. Like, a lot of men just probably wouldn't have the patience. It's just like, you need to grow up. Some men get it though. Your childhood has a profound effect on your personality. Absolutely, yo, yes, that's what I'm saying. Our attraction patterns are deeply seated emotional needs that can be related to the manner in which we was parented. So that's what I'm saying. Like, it's an extension. It's not that there was a deficit, because my dad definitely was there. I wouldn't say there was a deficit in my relationship with my dad. I just felt like you don't want that relationship to end. And it's not that it has ended. It's just I moved out from my dad's house. I gotta go and live life. My dad took care of, like, my dad would give me money. I was like in my 20s. Still calling my dad up asking for money, yo. And he was like, all right, come over. And I would go over and he would give me fucking money. But at some point it has to stop. It's just like, okay, if I'm always relying upon my dad like this, like, how am I going to learn, like, responsibility, you know? So yeah, eventually that stopped. Like the money part. But, you know, it's just like, yeah, you just look for that extension. I don't see anything wrong with that. So, where was I going with that? I was going to say something about, yeah, and how, like, man, my professor got into that debate, and then he was just like, yeah, so I was like, yeah, it's an extension, like, of how we were, you know, as children. It was something else I was going to add to that. It'll come to me. But life is very fascinating. Life is fascinating. I had something else I was going to say. And we play out how we were as children, as adults, in our relationship, right? In our adult relationships. It was something that maybe it's not meant for me to say it. Because it kind of evaded my memory for a bit. But I know I have a point there, you know, to build upon that that theory. That, you know, And it's really about like how our attachment style was with our parents, our caretaker growing up. And so, yeah, until I find my daddy in a man, then nah. I don't see that as daddy issues. I don't like when people say it like that way. It's not an issue. What do you expect? What do you expect me to be attracted to? Yeah, I had to make the argument because a lot of times people will say that women who desire like their father or characteristics of their father, I guess, like in a man, they say, oh, it's because like she grew up without a father, and I didn't grow up without a father. That's the thing. I didn't grow up without a father. In fact, it's a complete opposite. So that's just how I internalize what love looks like and feels like. And just catering to my dad, like even as a little girl, he had like this recliner chair he would sit in. And, like I would massage his feet. I would, clean his ears out. But this is things I wanted to do, you know. We had our own ways of bonding. There's nothing wrong with that. I think it's healthy. And he was just like very soft and nurturing. The complete opposite of my fucking mama. I have to say this. Complete opposite of my mom. So I think that's why I even drew to him even more. I mean, I've already talked about like how my mom would discipline me and my sister, and like it was like physical abuse, kind of reminiscent of how the slave masters would do the slaves back in the day. Have them stripped down and beat them or whatever. And my dad, like, he didn't like that. He would protect me from my mom in that way. He would like get into arguments with my mom about, oh, you shouldn't be doing that, da da da. So my dad is a sweet person. That's how I just view my dad. So yes, of course I look for that in a man. But in terms of like, because like this is the thing, when a person has lived like as a single person for a while, it just becomes like the norm, to the point where anything like outside of that, not to say that dating isn't fun, dating is cool. I like to go on dates with guys and meet men, right? But it's like you get so comfortable in the space that you're in that when you on a date, yeah, of course it feels awkward. It feels awkward. It's just like, who the fuck are you? And I think about like, damn, think about like what you would normally be doing at that time, right? While I'm sitting in front of a person, it's just like, I'm thinking about how much fun I could be having just being alone while I'm on a date with a person. And these are like nice dates. I've been on really nice dates where men like, they're thoughtful about how they plan the date and all that. But I just enjoy being alone. I don't know any other way to say it. You say it sounds like a codependent, narcissistic duo. No, I don't look at it as codependent. You're saying like the relationship that I had with my dad, that type of relationship being kind of duplicated in an adult relationship would be codependent. Relationships are codependent. I don't see that as a bad thing. But meanwhile, you still have your own individuality. So I think this is where the philosophical aspect of relationships comes into play, right? Because there really is no right or wrong. It really is a matter of what works for a couple. And it's a reason why you're drawn to certain people, right? There's something in you that desires a compliment, a counterpart that another person brings to the table, and vice versa. And it fits together like a glove. Right? I don't see that. That's just like a partnership if you were in business, you know. You may have something that another person doesn't have, right? And you guys come together and you build codependent. Codependently. Is that a bad thing? I won't look at that necessarily as a bad thing. It's not to say you can't live without a person though. Now that's what maybe you're thinking about that, like, oh, I can't live without you. That shit is crazy. I don't see myself in a relationship like that. That definitely is not healthy. But I've been with a man that has said those words to me. Have I gotten there in my frame of mind? No. Because I'm a whole person by myself, right? But I do have certain things that I desire. So that's how things can be just misinterpreted. People misinterpret because they're looking at your life through their filter, right? So you're hearing what I'm saying, but it's still being filtered through your own personal experiences. And maybe you can speak on your own personal experiences with codependency. Because what I'm saying is bringing up something for you, and what is bringing up, you're commenting and you're sharing here. But I don't see that in terms of a dynamic that I would feel comfortable like playing out. That's the whole purpose of this video when I talk about romantic relationships being overrated, because I am that kind of person that I can be alone even when I'm in a relationship with a person. I'm kind of like in my own world kind of thing. But we're in each other's world, right? It's both, right? We can be wrapped up in each other's world. But I'm still a solid person. So that if they were to die, or the relationship was to come to an end, like, I'm still going to be like who I am, right? Like every aspect of who I am, right? It's still going to be the same, right? I'm not going to be that much impacted by that necessarily. And you can interpret that as, okay, that could be a bad thing. And that's the problem, I think, when it comes to understanding people and relating to people, is because we often like to put labels on things as good or bad. It's neither good nor bad. It just is. That's where I ran into the problem in communication with my friend last night via text, is because he in his mind was trying to label things good or bad. But I'm just telling him about, like, he had watched my video about the psychology of dating, but he in his mind is trying to label things good or bad, and it's like, it's not good or bad. And he's recommending a fucking what do you call those people, a matchmaker. It's like, have you ever considered hiring a professional match? I'm like, I don't need a matchmaker. I mean, who even said I wanted to be in a relationship? How did you pull that from the video on my video on the psychology of dating I just made? You, from that, watching that, you draw the conclusion that I need help finding a partner. I'm like, I don't look at it that way. I feel like the universe is the best matchmaker. And I'm not pressed for a relationship in that way. But yeah, people filter things through their own personal experience. So I get it. I misread you. Well, yeah, because people, like, okay, like I said, like, when people communicate, right? I'm communicating with you guys. You, from this communication, what I'm saying, of course, you may be able to relate, but then you add on it, right? You just add it to the communication, and it's kind of, I feel like it's taking it in a different direction. That is not the point that I'm making. But it's not to say we can't go in that direction that you're taking it. But we just be clear that that's not the point that I'm getting at. Um, so yes, I'm well versed in codependency and narcissism. It runs in my family vertically and horizontally. Well, let's talk about it. Okay, before we end this video, because you're bringing it up, so it seems like it's something that is of interest to you, or you're familiar with narcissism. I don't look at, that's the thing, I don't look at really anything as bad necessarily, right? Even people, or the world for that matter. I said this in my previous video. I don't like to look at like the world as a bad place, or people as bad, or anything as bad. I mean, behavior is behavior. It stems from something, and I like to understand what is it something that motivates the behavior, more so than interpreting it as good or bad. And I know that certain names like narcissism, certain labels, are typically viewed as a bad thing. Narcissism. But I think narcissism can be healthy and is necessary. You look at the people who are considered to be narcissists, it's like, okay, so what? They're narcissists. It's a reason why they're narcissists. And it serves a purpose. Otherwise, they wouldn't have that trait, you know what I'm saying, within them. It serves a purpose. And so instead of people delving a little bit deeper to understand, okay, what's driving the narcissism? What is the benefit of the narcissism? Right? What's the purpose of it? What's the functionality of this narcissism? Why is there narcissism in this person? People just say, oh, they're a narcissist. I like to take it a step further than that. I think narcissism serves a function. It serves a purpose. And if that purpose is a good purpose, right, means to an end, then all right, it's justifiable. A lot of leaders, you have to have a degree of narcissism. I don't look at it as narcissism. I just hate that word in a way. I mean, I know that's just like a construct that includes, a list of traits, a list of characteristics that people can come to understand a certain type of personality type, but instead of saying a person is a narcissist, let's break it down and begin to describe what are their characteristics. And so we begin to really go a little bit deeper into their behavior. But you're saying things to okay, you just said healthy narcissism is fundamentally different than NPD, narcissistic personality disorder. Okay. But that's not saying anything that's new information than how psychologists have been trained, right? So I feel like, how is that progressing the conversation? Give an example. Give an example. Even though, yes, I practice psychology, I study psychology, this is the field I'm in, right? Theories and labels in psychology help us to understand behavior. But even within those theories and even within those diagnoses are errors, right? There's you can't look at it like it's written in stone, right? And it is the ultimate gold standard of being able to understand behavior. Because it's not. It's just a way people are able to, people within the profession are able to communicate. And more importantly, get paid and reimbursed. It's for reimbursement purposes, right? Insurance purposes. Um, but when we talk about like personality disorders, it's just like, I don't look at it necessarily as a disorder. It becomes a disorder because the people around that person don't quite know and understand how to interact with that person. That person is different. We're all different though. So in a sense, we all can have a personality disorder. When you look at the groupings of personality disorders in the DSM, they're only what? It's only a cluster of them. It's not even that many of so-called personality disorders, and we know there are so many different personality types that can be problematic, right? We all have different personality types. There can be a diagnosis in the DSM for everyone, right? Not just a clinical diagnosis, not just an Axis 1 diagnosis, but everyone could potentially have a personality disorder. You think about it. So, what does that mean? The 3 E's: empathy, impairment, entitlement, and exploitation. Psychology is a soft science. That's what, I guess they say that. But psychology is the basis of many other disciplines too. When you look at business, marketing, you take almost any other discipline, at the root of it is psychology. So let's not undermine psychology. I'm not here to say that, okay, psychology is just a bunch of baloney, because many of the theories have been well researched. They like to deem chemistry, physics, biology as hard sciences in a sense that have been backed up with research, empirically validated research, right? But all research is prone to error, and typically, if you're a true scientist, right, or a researcher, you know that all research really, I mean, even though it claims to be objective, how objective is it if it's done by humans who are subjective beings, right? It's just like, we can go into this whole debate, right? But you could just take any theory that people claim is a law, right, based on science, and it's just it's bogus. You can invalidate any fucking theory. So I think it just boils down to perception, how you look at a thing. Because every fucking scientific fact has been disproven. That's the art of science, right? Science is science, but science is an art. You know, one day they say eggs are good for you. Another day they say eggs are bad for you. It's just, one day they say COVID vaccines are good, and vice versa. It's just, science disproves itself. So how much validity can you put in scientific theories, which they try to make into a law, right? Everything can be a science, no matter if it's hard or soft. Anything can be soft, anything can be hard science. It's just a matter of perception. You're not really existing right now. You're just perceiving. You're living in a dream world that doesn't really exist. It's just a figment of your imagination. On that note, I'm about to go. I will catch you guys in the next one. Feel free to share your thoughts below. Let me know what you guys think. I love you guys. Bye-bye.